Hello, everybody. My name is Adina McKoy, personal development enthusiast and mental health advocate and lifelong learner. I am taking today to record what I am calling a content-a-thon. Okay, so in the past, I've had trouble making content. So today, I have 13 content ideas, and I want to see how many of them I can get through today. So, video number one, that's this right here, right now, is called, I might change the name a little bit actually, but this is Things I've Learned from Robert Kiyosaki. So, who is Robert Kiyosaki? If you don't know, Robert Kiyosaki is an author. He's one of his most famous and first books is called Rich Dad Poor Dad. If you don't know, go find out, read it. It's a great book. It's one of the most popular and best-selling personal finance books. Came out in the 90s, and it's all about his rich dad and his poor dad. So Robert Kiyosaki had two dads. Well, really, he only had one. He had one biological dad, and he had his best friend's dad. And his biological dad was a PhD, an academic. He had, he was a middle-class working man, but he was not wealthy. And his best friend's dad, he was wealthy. And so he learned life lessons about finance and, how to make money in general from both dads, but he had the benefit of having two people to learn from and to be able to compare and pick up on which life lessons he wanted to keep and which ones he wanted to get rid of and not assume beliefs based off of. So anyway, so I've been studying some Robert Kiyosaki. I read his book for like the second time. And he's got this cool board game. Actually, his first book was written in an attempt to sell his board game, which is called Cash Flow, which is it's similar to Monopoly. I've never played it. I don't have it, but he compares it to Monopoly, but it has an accounting system. So the purpose of the game is to teach you accounting, which is a financial skill that you need to be wealthy and to build wealth. You have to understand accounting and how to manage your finances. So anyway, this video is all about some of the things I've learned from Robert Kiyosaki. 5 things to be exact. Thing number 1, the difference between an asset and a liability. So Robert Kiyosaki takes the first couple chapters to explain, well, after, introducing his story and whatnot, to explain the difference between an asset and a liability. And a lot of people get this confused or they don't fully understand the difference. But the main difference between an asset and a liability, pretty simple. But an asset is something that generates cash flow, that brings money to you and into your life. And a liability is something that costs you money. It's simple, but it becomes, how you can say, arguable in a sense that it actually might take you crunching numbers to figure out if something is an asset or a liability to you. And one example that he uses is a home. A lot of people tend to believe by default that their home is an asset, but it depends on how you are using the home and whether or not the home is making you money. If the home is costing you more money than it is making you, if it does not generate cash flow into your life, it is a liability. But for example, if you are using a home as an investment property, let's say you're renting out part of the home and it's actually able to earn you an income or earn you a profit on owning the home, after mortgage, after expenses and everything like that are paid off, if you are bringing money in, the home is considered then and only then an asset. So I already understood the concept of an asset and liability, but I didn't realize that it could get a little bit more complex if you are dealing with, larger investments and if you don't really understand whether or not money is coming in or leaving you. So this brings me to point number 2, the importance of cash flow, right? Cash flow, kind of the same concept as number 1, understanding how important it is for money to be coming in and knowing that you're only building wealth if you have assets that generate cash flow, meaning that cause money to come into your life rather than you spending money. Okay. I learned from somewhere else that spend money is kind of like a little mnemonic, which contains the word end. So you know that if you are spending your money, you're ending it. And money is currency, which is a current and should constantly be flowing. So if you are spending money, it is ending. Meaning, if you're spending money, you're wasting money. But you always want to be aiming towards the goal of investing money, meaning putting money back into the system so that it is able to come back to you. We're on point 3 now. 3. Not all debt is bad debt. This was an interesting concept that I learned from Mr. Kiyosaki. Not all debt is bad debt. So again, debt is good debt when you are able to utilize it to generate cash flow. So, for example, if you take out a huge mortgage, like I think he made the example that he's in debt like $300 million, if I'm correct. He has a large debt, but that's because he buys huge properties like hotels. Now, he's in this big debt, right? But the mortgage for his property is only going to be but so much. Now, think about that in comparison to how many units he would have in the property, which is like a hotel, and then how many of the tenants or renters' income would it actually take to pay off the mortgage, right? So he could pay off the mortgage and then still have a bunch of people renting out parts of the hotel, which is generating more income. It's generating more income. So it's actually a profit being made off of being in debt, and it's providing housing for people, and it's generating cash flow. So even though he's in a lot of debt, aka mortgage, for a very huge investment property, he's making a lot of money off of it. So that is an example of good debt that generates cash flow and also gives back. It provides an opportunity for people to have somewhere to stay. Providing service for a large number of people is the most effective way to get rich. Okay, so not all debt is bad debt. An example of bad debt is debt that does not, the opposite, that does not generate cash flow, is not an asset to you, i.e. student loan debt. We all know about that. Student loan debt is one of the worst forms of debt. And he says, this is a bonus. What I learned about student loan debt, he said you cannot file bankruptcy to get out of student loan debt. That makes it one of the worst forms of debt because it does not really insure you. It doesn't insure you any cash flow. I mean, we all go to school for the concept of, get a good job, make good money off of the skills that you learn in college, but student loan debt doesn't guarantee you that. There's no get your money back guarantee if it doesn't happen, and it doesn't guarantee you any assets or cash flow. So student loan debt is actually very bad debt. So, there's that. I think we're up to point number 4. What I don't know. So from Robert Kiyosaki, I learned a couple of things about what I don't know. And what do I mean by that? I mean, he brought up some things and I was just like, I've never heard of that before, or I need to learn more about that. So one thing he said that I definitely need to go study up on is how to manage a financial statement. I know how to do a budget. I know how to write down, some expenses I have and plan from how I'm going to pay them with one stream of income. But, I don't know how to manage a financial statement. As a matter of fact, I wasn't really even sure what a financial statement was. But on his website, he has a picture of a financial statement. And just know, guys, it's a skill that needs to be acquired and practiced. And fortunately enough, he makes content and the game Cash Flow and books that help you to learn this skill. And he's got a free example of a financial statement on his website. And actually cash flow the game, because I've seen pictures of it. Again, I never played it, but it actually incorporates financial statements. So you have to like fill out financial statements as you go. And it's all about the whole theme is who can get out of the rat race first. And that requires you to be able to balance your financial statements and understand if the purchases you're making are actually an asset or a liability to you. So sounds really cool. I want it. Next thing, amortization. Still not even sure what that is. Looked it up, forgot what it means. He said but that's something you need to know. Study your amortization. Next point. I feel like this is the last point. Yes, point number 5. Tax law. It's important. That's the point. Is this tax law? It's important. And why the wealthy don't pay taxes. So he made this point in one of his videos. He was talking about how people get so angry, or at least working class or poor middle class people, they get so angry when they realize that the wealthy are not paying their taxes. And he said that that's actually really a foolish way of thinking, because how can I say, nobody has to pay more taxes than is required by law. The key here is to understand that wealthy people understand tax law, and it's not a crime, well, at least for most people, it's not a crime to use tax law to your advantage in order to get breaks and benefits that require you to pay less. The tax law was actually, I won't say it was written, because it wasn't necessarily written, but right now it works against the poor and working class people because they don't understand it fully. And I just recently got a book on tax law because, starting a small business. But the title of the book is called like Tax Law for Small Businesses. And one cool, hey, okay, I'm back. When you're shooting content, put your phone on airplane mode so that it doesn't ring. Okay, so quote in my tax law book, and I'm going to show you the cover. Should I show you the cover now? I'll read the quote first. In America, there are 2 tax systems, one for the informed and one for the uninformed. Both systems are legal. Okay, and this quote was by Judge Learned Hand. That's seriously his name? Ooh, it might be a woman. Judge Learned Hand. Learned Hand. Anyway, this is the book. Let me just lift it up. Tax Savvy for Small Businesses. It's very comprehensive and huge. Big book. But yeah. So, things I've learned from Robert Kiyosaki. Those are my 5 things I've learned from Robert Kiyosaki. Let me know if they've helped you. Let me know if they've inspired you to go read any of his books, listen to any of his stuff. He's got a radio show. I don't know how to get access to that. I don't know. But, definitely go check him out and go get your financial literacy up, okay? Go read, go learn, go study. Call to action. Question of the day is, or question of this video is, what was your biggest takeaway? What did you learn? And what would you like to see next? Thank you for listening and watching. Next video soon.